The Mini Match Pod. Hello guys and welcome to an unexpected mini match pod. Didn't really expect to be doing an episode this week, but yeah, the powers that be have decided that we've got a game on Saturday, so I've quickly had to get together with our favourite football analyst, ITFC Analytics, to get some notes together for this game, but we've also got some midweek action to talk about. So we had our EFL Trophy campaign continue, you know, my favourite footballing competition. Oh God, but no, we've got that to talk about. I was going to say that for Saturday, but we'll put it in here as it's been and gone, and yeah, we've got a game to talk about on Saturday anyway. So we'll roll straight into it. We've got a lot to talk about in this episode. So we'll talk about Gillingham first before we roll into our preview for the game against Blackpool. So how did we get on in the EFL Trophy? So, final score, Ipswich Town 2, Gillingham 0. And yeah, bit of a surprising game. And yeah, we'll run through the game as we always do. But yeah, seemingly a great performance from what we saw for those who did watch the game. I know there was a lot of hoo-ha about paying £10 for what was seemingly a reserve game. And as we're going to go on to talk about, Paul Lambert threatened to play the kids, as they say, and he certainly delivered, overhauling the squad from Saturday with only the likes of David Cornell, Janoy Donassi and Luke Wolforden as your first team sort of senior players. We saw the likes of Indonesian internet sensation. So I saw Rich on Blue Monday was pleading to the masses in Indonesia. If anyone is listening from Indonesia and would like to buy Ipswich Town Football Club or invest, please do. We would love your support. And yeah, your darling Elkan Baggett made his debut as a left-sided centre half, along with the likes of Corey Ndaba, Brett McGavin, Liam Gibbs, Tyree Simpson and Ben Falami being given a first-team run. We've not really seen a lot of them this season, or last season, to be honest, and they were paired up with the likes of Jack Lancaster and Armando Dobra, and we all know how influential and brilliant they can be on their day. So yeah, it was a familiar looking 4-3-3 that we were looking at. I think a lot of people thought we were maybe playing with two up front, with Simpson and Falami being there, but Falami was used on the left hand side as sort of a withdrawn striker cutting in from the left hand side, and Tyrese Simpson was the main man leading the line. But it's very fluid 4-3-3, the likes of Dobra and Lancaster chopping and changing throughout the game, coming centrally and deep, and Lancaster in particular very much reminded me of sort of Jack Grealish, the way he sort of goes about his game, lining up in those pockets of space, being really dangerous and, you know, stringing things together and creating real problems for Gillingham. But first half, lacking real quality from both sides, and I think we were a little bit edgy. You know, these lads are so young, and it's, as much as there weren't any fans there, it's a big stage for them to step up on, you know, for the first time. But Gillingham lined up a fairly strong side. It was definitely second string, or their fringe players, but plenty of players in there who have got a wealth of experience. John Akinde is a well-travelled goal scorer for the likes of Barnet and Lincoln City. He's been here, there and everywhere, and usually scores goals wherever he goes. You also had Alex McDonald in there, really tidy little player. Not had a great deal of experience at League One level, but been fairly good in his career at League Two level for the likes of, I think he played for Burton as well as Oxford during his time. So he's had sort of a good spell in League Two. But yeah, I'd say they had the better of the first half, Gillingham. I thought, without really threatening David Cornell, they forced a couple of fairly routine saves out of him, but they generally controlled the game, especially early on. But I thought as the first half grew on, we grew into the game a little bit more, and there was a few half chances here and there, the best of which falling to Ben Falami. I think Dobra had an effort from the halfway line. He felt like David Beckham from the late 90s, having trying to lob the keeper, but to no avail. But yeah, I think as the half grew on, these young lads found their feet, found their confidence, and these lads have been playing together for a long time in the youth team setup. I think Joe Fairs, who runs the ITFC Academy account, not affiliated with the club, but he does a fantastic job in keeping us informed with all the academy results and how the academy lads are progressing, and if they go out on loan, how they've been getting on. But I think Joe said that a lot of them have all come through the academy. I think it was at least six or seven have come through the academy together, which does make a real difference. And that you could see that they were starting to grow in confidence and play some really good stuff. And I think as the half grew on, as much as it ended 0-0 at half time, it was a good half. And you look at the likes of, I thought, Cornell, who did himself a good, did himself well in goal there. I thought he played particularly well, dealing with some routine efforts, but his distribution was really good, something that we don't really see from Thomas Holy all of the time. I thought Wolfenden and Baggett, a little bit edgy at the start, but I think they grew into the game, and when you've got a big physical striker like Akinde up there, that was a really good test for them in their, in Baggett's first start and their first time together in the first team. And Lancaster and Dobra, like I said, taking up these dangerous positions and causing some problems, but we just lacked that cutting edge really in that first half. But yeah, we go into the second half, and again, you could see that confidence had really kept on building, a wave of sort of momentum. As Town got more confident, we really started to click and perform really well. And Falami had another miscue in front of goal early on in the second half, but after this, what a goal this is. And I'm sure many of you have seen it by now, but Armando Dobra, what a little magician he is. Diminutive little player. I absolutely bloody love him, and he picks the ball up in space. I think Simpson managed to shift the ball to him 30 yards from goal on the left hand side of the box, drives forward in acres of space and unleashes this venomous strike that flies into the top corner in off the bar, and I would have loved to have been in the ground for that. What a fantastic goal. And yeah, that set Town away, and as you could see from that goal, that really spurred these lads on. And like I said, it wasn't a terrible Gillingham side that they put out there, and for these lads to come up against them and perform in the way that they did was really encouraging to see. But yeah, after this, like I said, they grew in confidence, and their influence of the game was far greater. And this was followed up by great pressure from Liam Gibbs down the just in the right hand corner. I think Dobra played a sort of hopeful pass, trying to get someone on the end of it, but Gibbs persevered and managed to turn the ball over and played the ball into a dangerous area. And to credit to Falami, his finishing touch wasn't there for most of the game, but he reacted really quickly and got into the box to arrive at the perfect time, impeccable timing, like all good strikers do, and managed to double the lead for Town. But yeah, after this was seemingly enough to nullify any chance of a comeback from Gillingham, who I think they're equally excited as Paul Lambert was about the EFL Trophy. But be that as it may, take nothing away from the way that the boys played. A really great performance from a group of young lads who I don't think any of us expected this level of performance from them, particularly against the opposition that we were playing. Gillingham are quite a resolute and hard-working side. It was a difficult task for them to come in and perform against, like I said, some players who aren't too far away from the Gillingham first team. But yeah, certainly there's some of the lads who will only benefit from going out on loan, and you could see where I'd say the likes of Gibbs, Falami, Simpson maybe need that loan just to get more regular minutes, the minutes they're probably not going to get with Town. But Dobra and Lancaster in particular, and even Corey and Darby, who lined up at left back, I thought all gave a really good account of themselves. And Darby didn't have a great deal to do, but Dobra and Lancaster were terrific, and I think they've got to be in Paul Lambert's thoughts, surely. I think he played it down at full time, but whether that was just what he's telling the media, but they had a terrific game, and I'm really disappointed not to see Lancaster start against Blackpool, because I think he deserves it. I mean, he may not due to playing the full 90 minutes there, and obviously he's had that long-term injury. But again, and Dobra, he played up there last time he played Blackpool, and I'd love to see him get his opportunity again, even if he's just in the squad. But let's get down to earth again. It was an EFL Trophy game. I'm not getting too carried away. You all know how I feel about the EFL Trophy. It's not the highest calibre of competitions there is there, let's be honest. But I will be always happy to see a group of young lads deliver a really solid performance and then top that off with the victory. So yeah, that gives us 3 points from 2 games in the EFL Trophy as we go. We've got Crawley next month away from home, so we'll see how far we continue with this, whether Paul Lambert goes for similar tact in the next match or he has a change of heart and plays some more senior players. But in any case, it's a good showcase for the lads, and if they can progress and these young lads get more minutes under their belts, that's only a good thing. So we'll quickly finish off with the player ratings, as we always do. So always out of 10. No subs to really talk about. Bless them, they did get a lot of time, did they, the young lads? But we'll go through them all, as well as what we thought of Gillingham. It's not really an accurate impression of them, really. You know what they're going to be like as a league opponent later on this month. But so we'll start off with the goalkeeper, David Cornell. I've given him a 7. Did his job well. Comfortable saves, not really tested that much, but distribution was great, and I thought he's done himself, no harm in potentially getting himself into that first team picture in league action. Holy didn't have a great game against MK Dons, and any more shaky performances despite the 3 clean sheets that preceded Saturday's performance. I wouldn't rule out Cornell getting his opportunity later down the line, particularly if Holy's injury does come back to it could easily return like it probably did last season. We may not have always been aware of it. Genoa Donatian gave him a 6. Didn't do anything wrong, didn't have a great deal to do. I think perhaps in the first half Gillingham had a little bit more joy down that flank than they did on the opposite side where Ndaba was, but solid performance, nothing wrong. What you expect from Donatian, really. Luke Wolverton, I gave a 7. A little bit sloppy at times with his passing, but I think, as I said, been able to deal with the likes of John Akinde and Dominic Samuel, who came on, but Christ, he was abysmal as he was when he left town, let's be honest. But he had a good game, as did Elkan Baggott on his debut. Thought he had a really solid game, looked composed, vocal as a left-sided centre-half. He's done himself no harm in potentially getting more minutes this season, particularly in cup competitions. Corey Ndaba, as we said, didn't have a great deal to do at left-back, but he also got a 7 like Baggott. And Wolfenden, I think he had a solid game and grew in confidence as the game went on in what was an unnatural position for him, really. Brett McGavin got a 6, I think. Didn't do anything wrong, a bit like Donatian, I think, but there was times where I think when Wolfenden and Baggott needed that option to drop in, like we see from Andre Dezelle in that pivot role in that midfield, McGavin wasn't always there, but I think he's another one who'd definitely benefit from some time out on loan, and hopefully he does get that opportunity. Liam Gibbs, give him a 7. Probably was more on the boundaries of a 6, but his tenacious recovery of that ball for the second goal and an assist will always notch you up a little bit higher. Armando Dobra gets an 8. Anything good came through him, really, when he was on the pitch, and it's a typical Dobra performance, what you expect from him. Whenever he picks up the ball, you expect him to do something, and that was no different against Gillingham. I thought it was a very good performance, and like I said, hopefully that plays him into the thoughts of Paul Lambert. I'm not too hopeful, though. Jack Lancaster, probably a bit harsh on Jack. I only gave him a 7, and I know his dad, Stephen, had a go at me for it, and with hindsight, maybe he did deserve a lot better, but I thought, again, took up some really dangerous positions, and particularly in that second half, you could tell that he was pulling the strings and getting Town into some really dangerous positions. And another one who I really hope is in Paul Lambert's thoughts for the game against Blackpool. Tyrese Simpson, I give him a 6. You can tell he's still very raw, but didn't do anything wrong, and he did well when he tasked with holding the ball up. A few occasions I think the Gillingham back four did have the advantage and did win that battle for most of the game, but he was making a nuisance of himself, which is all you can really do when you're the lone striker sometimes, and you aren't always able to win that battle. And then Ben Falami gets a 7, so again, probably would have been a 6 without the goal, but I think he did everything right and everything you'd want from a striker, apart from that final ball for most of the game. But the way he reacted to get Town that second goal, I thought deserves that 7. We also saw the likes of Ross Crane and Sabiza and Viral come on, but none of them had a touch of the ball really to talk about, so I can't really give them a grade. And as for Gillingham, we'll give them a 6 out of 10. I think that's mainly based on the first half, but it's really tough to judge them, as I said, and the league is going to be their focus. But yeah, like I said, I'll always be happy to see young lads perform well and come away with a win, but we'll get back into league action. And like I said, a game we weren't really expecting until we found out on Sunday that there was going to be a game, whether it was a joint decision or one team was pushing more than the other, or maybe the league was pushing. I don't think we'll ever know. But we play Blackpool, so ITFC Analytics will be joining us again. He's given me some more notes to go through. And yeah, we'll see what we expect from Blackpool. It'll be an interesting game, that's for sure. So, as we said, following Sunday's announcement, Town will travel up to the northwest coast to face our final away opponents from last season, Blackpool. Well, that was a long old day, I remember that one. For our 5th game of the season. Another side who have a manager who's in their first full seasons. The Tangerines replaced League One promotion specialist and someone that I've spoke to in the last 6 months, Simon Grayson, with Liverpool's academy manager Neil Critchley. This is his first managerial job at senior level. He's managed Liverpool on a couple of occasions in cup ties when I think Klopp was away for that Club World Cup tournament that they had just before Christmas last year. But Blackpool entering a new era after being revived from that oppressive reign of former owner Carl Oyston. We all know about the history that's gone on there, but finally came to an end in 2019, and born and bred Blackpool boy Simon Sadler took over as owner, and he's quickly lifted the spirits. I think that we all knew how difficult it was for Blackpool fans, but I don't think we'd ever understand until we're in that situation, the hardships they were under. You know, with the Oystons, they'd gone from the highs of the Premier League all the way down to League Two and potentially on the verge of going bust. But Sadler's come in and quickly changed things around both on and off the pitch at Bloomfield Road. But yeah, we failed to beat Blackpool in both fixtures last year. They came down to Portman Road as a 2-2 draw just before Christmas, and then, as was said, they were our final away opponents before the season was stopped, and it was an agonising 2-1 stoppage time defeat. I still remember the jubilant celebrations from the Blackpool fans as it absolutely pissed it down at full time, and I got absolutely soaked trying to find the lads as we got kind of separated in the melee. But having glasses is never good when it absolutely pisses it down. You just lose all vision and it does disorientate you a little bit. But enough about last season. We'll take a look at, I say enough about last season. We'll see how Blackpool got on last season, and they've had a very busy summer, which we're going to talk about before we look at this season, how they've been lining up, some of the players that we expect to see featuring for them on Saturday, and then we'll dive into ITFC Analytics tactical analysis of our opponents, and yeah, hopefully a winning formula to beat them. But yeah, it's going to be a tough game, and as we're going to find out, they've been very busy in the transfer window, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Blackpool at the top end of the table come May, should we get there with all this going on with COVID. But yeah, last season they started really well, and Simon Grayson is not the flashiest manager, as we all know, but pragmatic manager, and he will get you wins. And they're being fired by an in-form Armand Nandwile and our former loanee Liam Feeney, and that saw them in the playoff hunt just before Christmas. So around the time they played us, they were up as high as 5th. But after that, 1 win and 9 followed, and a raft of changes came in January. They made a lot of turnover, bringing a lot of players on loan, and I think that was a way of Sadler taking control and maybe pushing Simon Grayson out of the door slightly, and maybe that was a sign that things weren't quite right there with the manager at the helm, and that led to Simon Grayson being sacked. I think it was February the 12th he was gone. David Dunn took the dugout for a short period, including that victory over us, before Neil Critchley was announced as the new Blackpool manager going forward. COVID-19 stopping the season meant Critchley could only take charge of 2 games, and Blackpool were ruled to finish 13th by points per game. But as I've said, the summer has seen an absolute wholesale turnover at the club. No fewer than 14 new players have come in, and 17 players have departed, either being released or transferred out on loan or permanently. And Critchley seems to be moulding his vision, and hopefully for Blackpool it's as bright as their home kit. But out go the likes of the experienced and bulldog-like midfielder Jay Spear, and top scorer Armand Nduile's gone, top assister Liam Feeney's gone, former Premier League prodigy Nathan Delfonso, and the tricky, if not injury-prone winger Sean Scannell. All of them are gone. The old guard and fringe players make way for a wave of new and exciting signings from all walks of life, really. League 2 starlets, some League 1 underdogs, some high-profile free agents, and Premier League projects past and present link up to reshape this Blackpool squad in Neil Critchley's image. So you've got the likes of Jerry Yates, Keshi Anderson and Bez Labala, all hoping to make the step up after some really impressive season last year. Yates and Anderson were at Swindon, and Labala was at Crawley. Oliver Sartic and Jordan MJ Williams, I don't know what he prefers to be called, they've joined from Burton and Rochdale, so they're looking to make that jump to a side that maybe have slightly more realistic bids for promotion. And then, as we all know, Luke Garbutt has settled for a 1-year deal following his Everton release, and he had an impressive campaign with us, and they're going to be hoping for similar form for them. But the problem you have when you have such a huge overhaul and players that are trying to establish themselves in a division that they haven't played, it's always going to take time to gel. And should Critchley be able to do this, whether it happens quickly or he's given time to make this happen, with the players that they already have at their disposal, it's really hard to argue that Blackpool won't be in the promotion fight come the turn of the new year. And I think we'll be hoping that this wholesale, all the Blackpool fans will be hoping that this wholesale change, in addition to Critchley desire to play a more attacking, ruthless attacking and high intensity pressing brand of football compared to what they've seen with the likes of Simon Grayson, can see them return to the Championship for the first time since 14-15. So it's all good on paper, all looking bright, as we said, as a Blackpool kit, and I think expectations are fairly high. But we'll see how they fared in their last 3 games in league action, which sees Blackpool currently sit in 21st position. So going back a couple of games, they won their first home game against Swindon 2-0. They lost on the opening day to Plymouth, but were able to get a victory over fellow League 1 newbie Swindon, and 2 goals from new signing CJ Hamilton. Wonder how many times we'll be saying that, a goal from a new signing, but secured a comfortable win in front of 100,000. That's a lot of fans. Just 1,000 Blackpool fans when we were allowed fans in football grounds. Best said, we'll leave that behind. Some signs of promise from the new signers, and quite an impressive performance. Blackpool looking direct and intense, both on and off the ball, like Critchley is trying to instill. But this was followed up with a 2-0 away defeat at Gillingham, so a side we've spoken about earlier in this video, and a player who didn't have a good game on Tuesday certainly had a good game against Blackpool. Dominic Samuel scored twice, either side in either half, and I think there's some really sloppy defensive performances from Blackpool, and the Gills are fairly comfortable, but Blackpool, they did get back into the game, but really struggled to create anything meaningful going forward. And like I said, this is where you see wholesale changes really can cause issues when they don't click right away, and they've been, like we said, there've been so many at Blackpool. It's going to take a little bit of time, and yeah, this was followed up with another defeat, a really disappointing and quite a sucker punch defeat. They were 2-1 up in this game with 8 minutes to go, but they ended up losing 3-2, and that was to Lincoln City at home in their last league game. And yeah, some costly defensive mistakes. James Husband got a red card and gave away a penalty, and then I think they conceded late from a set piece, but were very exposed once they were down to 10 men. But yeah, not great. So they also lost on Tuesday night in EFL Trophy action. They drew 1-1 with Accrington Stanley, but lost on penalties in that one as well. So yeah, certainly not the start Blackpool or their fans were probably expecting, with all the excitement around the club for this new season and all the new faces and Critchley. But there seems to be signs where Blackpool are reaching this end goal that they want, which is for all these signings to click and yeah, be a real danger in this division. But it's just they're seeing these glimpses, but nothing's sticking together for a consistent patch of form just yet. So they'll be hoping to recapture the performance they had against Swindon against us, and maybe a victory against us, God forbid, will be the start and the confidence boost that these new players need, and they find that winning formula and that lineup which really gets them going this season. So before we go over to ITFC Analytics, we'll have a little look at how they lined up in their last league action. But this will take a little bit of time because they've got so many new players to talk about. And bloody Russell Martin mugged me off last week, didn't he? So I've had to do my due diligence. There we go. Got there in the end. Due diligence this week, and cover as many players as possible. So they line up with a 4-3-3. In goal is Chris Maxwell, 30-year-old keeper they signed in January on a short-term deal. He's gone on to sign a 2-year deal in the summer since then, so he's had an impressive time there. It's kind of a redemption story for him. He had that big move to Preston, had a really good time at Fleetwood, but that, you know how Preston operate under Simon Grayson, ironically. They like to try and find those lower league gems and turn them into a profit. He really struggled for Preston, and you may remember the name. He did get sent off against us in the 18-19 season where, for love nor money, we couldn't win that game, even with bloody Paul Gallagher going in goal and pulling off that wonder save. But yeah, he can be a really solid keeper at this level for sure, and they really hope that he can find the form that he had at Fleetwood that got him that big move, and he could be a real good signing for them on a free transfer. And now we're hoping, like I said, he's going to recapture the form that he has had in the past. At right back, they've got Ollie Turton. He's a 27-year-old. He's quite a versatile little player, can play in midfield as well as at full back, and they signed him from Crewe, where he had been for 7 years previously. They signed him in 2017. Very hard-working little player in that Blackpool side, but perhaps not your typical modern full-back, and solid defensively, but maybe with this system that Critchley wants to play, which we'll go on to talk about. It's very similar, if you're a Premier League fan, to where Neil Critchley has come from. They really want an attacking modern fullback, and that's seen Jordan Gabriel coming on loan from Nottingham Forest, who is seemingly that typical 21st century attacking physical fullback, and I think he's being groomed to replace Matty Cash, who's got his Premier League move but just needs a bit more experience. Was out on loan at Scunthorpe last year, but now stepping up to League One, seeing if he can cut the mustard there. Centre half, they got Marvin, this is a hell of a name to try and pronounce, Marvin Epetia, I think it is. It's got a silent K in there, trying to catch me out. 24-year-old 6'4" centre half who they signed in the summer from Leyton Orient. A mobile modern day centre half, labelled the non-league Van Dijk. Christ, that's a big name to label on yourself. When at Leyton Orient in their National League promotion season a couple of years ago, had a solid year in League Two. It'll be interesting to see if he can make that step up again. Maybe needs that old head beside him to comfort him and lead him and bring the best out of him, but it'll be an adjustment for him this year. And I think, as we'll go on to find out, maybe he's struggling a little bit to bridge that gap at the moment, at least anyway. Next to him on Saturday, James Husband was at centre-half. Obviously, as we said, he got sent off in that game. 26-year-old left-back, usually. Infamous tackler, I've seen, for all the wrong reasons. So a bit like Gwion Edwards. He loves a yellow card, but he's very solid at left-back at this level by all accounts. And he did the rounds previously in the Championship with Norwich, Middlesbrough and Fulham, but never quite made it. But I think at League One level, he's a very good left-back, and I think he'll be a big miss in this game. And maybe the direction Blackpool are heading in, he could actually be the perfect balance between defensive stability and attacking threat as well. But like I said, got sent off against Lincoln, so won't have to worry about him. At left-back, Dimitri Mitchell, 23-year-old Man United Academy graduate, who's released in the summer with only the one appearance to his name. Had a decent loan spell at Hearts last year in the SPL, despite them getting relegated. Certainly an attacking fullback. He's got the ability. He scored a set piece against Lincoln, I think. But I think there's questions remain about his physicality and his defensive ability. Also had some injury issues, I think, in his time. But League One will be a good test, and could take another player who may need a year to adapt, but potentially a low risk but very high reward signing for them. A good project that Critchley may be able to get the best out of, like he has with many academy players at Liverpool. In midfield, so a three-man midfield they've got in this 4-3-3. Ethan Robson, so a player we were linked with in the summer, I believe. 23-year-old, he was released by Sunderland this summer after spending 16 years at the club since he was a young lad. Box-to-box midfielder, had a really good year with Grimsby, but could only manage 20 games, I think. Seen as a cultured box-to-box midfielder, but once again another one with injury issues and perhaps lacking that experience at this level to show his full potential in his first season. But could be a good sign, and I think this is where Blackpool have recruited well. They've looked at players who aren't going to cost an arm and a leg, but could really, if coached well, could perform really well in the right system. Another player in the heart of the midfield is Grant Ward, so we all know about him. He's only 25 still. It seems he's been around for such a long time. But yeah, I think the thing they have with Grant Ward is what we had. We don't really know the type of player he is, and it's really hard to argue what his best position actually is. He's playing centrally for Blackpool, and they signed him following his release. He's spent a little bit of time doing his recovery with us, as we have our duty to nurse players back to full fitness if they've suffered an injury at the club. But yeah, I don't really know. He hasn't lit things up like Blackpool Illuminations. I thought I'd better get that joke in there. He hasn't lit Blackpool up just yet, but maybe he's another one who, playing centrally, he could benefit more, and they just need to find Grant Ward's best position like we failed to. Also in the centre of the midfield is Keshi Anderson, 25-year-old, who he didn't make the grade at Palace. He was signed in there but never actually made it when he was young. Had various loan spells, including Swindon, where he would end up on a permanent deal. Welland seemed to get the best out of him last year, like many players, but he chose to move to Blackpool despite Swindon's promotion. Quite a versatile attacking player who can play out wide or as a number 10, but seemingly he's moved to Blackpool to play more centrally, and I think a lot of the Blackpool fans see similarities to the likes of Jason Punchin and Elliot Grondin that they've had in the past. These sort of quite fluid attacking players who can find those pockets of space but are quite athletic as well. There's been questions over his attitude and fitness, but I think he's another player who, if Critchley can get motivated and fit, can fit him into the right system and position for him to flourish, then he could be a really dangerous player for them. And then we'll move on to the front three. So we've got Bez Labala, he's playing on the right, 22-year-old tricky pacey winger, still a little bit raw, but he was a star performer for Crawley last year. Played mainly on the left, inverted, cutting in and contributing really well for Crawley with goals and assists in the first part of the season. I remember looking at the video printer many weeks when I wasn't at Portman Road, and you could see Bez Labala's name lighting up the screens. But yeah, he's still very raw, but they'll be hoping that Critchley's experience of being able to nurture talent, like I said he has done at Liverpool, could get the best out of him. But he's going to certainly twist a few players' melons. God, I've got a Happy Mondays joke in there as well. I don't think he's quite as confused as Bez is. Leading the line at the minute is Jerry Yates, 23-year-old, signed from Rotherham, but another one who performed really well under Richie Wellens at Swindon last year, along with Owen Doyle, who isn't at Swindon either this season. He helped the Robins up with 13 goals despite playing on the left wing. Another one who likes to cut in and score goals from wide areas, but seems to be tasked with leading the line this season, which may be a difficult task for him, which, you know, when you're playing out wide, I think we've seen with Caden Jackson, I think he had a lot of success at Accrington where he was playing more out wide than he was centrally, with Billy Key sort of leading the line. For them, maybe leading the line will be a difficult adjustment for him. He's not the biggest striker, but he can be a dangerous player, as he proved last year. And he'll be hoping that he gets the opportunity where he didn't really have a lot of time at Rotherham to prove himself at League One level. Maybe Blackpool can give him the platform to do that. But he's not started too well, but still plenty of time for him to prove himself. On the left wing, we've got CJ Hamilton, who, by the sounds of it, is an NFL wide receiver. By the sounds of it, CJ Hamilton, wide receiver. But no, he's a 25-year-old winger signed from Mansfield, star of the season for them so far, and certainly a lad full of confidence, scoring 3 goals to date from the wing, including the brace against Swindon. Another one who's been most successful cutting in as an inverted winger, very pacey but perhaps inconsistent end product. And yeah, but he's in that purple patch, and he wasn't always terrific for Mansfield, hence why he was at League Two level. But maybe when Critchley's got him in this purple patch of form, that he could really be a dangerous weapon, and is someone definitely to look out for at the weekend. So we'll move on to a few players that didn't start but are in and around the first team picture. So as we mentioned earlier, Jordan Williams, 24-year-old combative and industrious midfielder signed from Rochdale. Really tidy player that Critchley knows from his time at Liverpool. Perhaps that replacement for the Exeton Jay Spearing, just to shore up things in the midfield. But he's a bit more physical. Jay Spearing was only a little lad, weren't he? This Jordan Williams is 6 foot tall and quite a strong lad, as we saw when we played Rochdale last season. Luke Garbett, again, another player we all know about, certainly different to many of the wingers that they've got, but it all depends where they see him play. And I think he came on against Lincoln and played at left back, and as we know, he's certainly better going forward than he is as a defender, but he's also got that set piece ability, which is always another string to his bow and makes him a dangerous asset to have at this level, so long as they can keep him fit. We did struggle to do that at times last season. Oliver Sartic, another player we mentioned, 23-year-old, quite versatile attacker, another one they need to find that best position for him. He's nurturing under a good coach like Critchley. Joined Burton last summer, having previously been at Leeds, and another name that might ring a bell. He nearly embarrassed Thomas Holy on the opening day last season when Holy went to launch the ball forward and Sartic managed to block the ball, but just going past the post as opposed to the back of the net. But yeah, signs of ability, quite a little diminutive left-footed player. We all like a good left-footer, don't we? So yeah, they'll be hoping to try and find the best position for him in that attack, but there's a lot of options there, and there's a few more that we're going to talk about now. Gary Medine, who's seemingly the elder statesman really, but he's only 30, and I was quite surprised to see him drop down in January. He'd been part of Sheffield United's promotion winning side, went on loan from Cardiff to Sheffield United in that season, but never really managed to break into the Cardiff team and didn't really have a great time or goal scoring record there. His most successful spell was at Bolton, which ultimately got him that move to Cardiff, but his best years have always been played at League One level, and there's been questions over his attitude and application at times at Blackpool, and I think coming in as quite a big name and probably on some big money, that may be a little bit frustrating not to see him do a little bit better for the Blackpool fans. But if they can get him motivated and back to the form he showed at Bolton, particularly at this level, and the following season he had in the Championship, then he could be a real asset. And it's certainly a different option to what they've got, that big target man, but someone who definitely can score goals at this level. Other attacking players they've always got he's always a dangerous player at this level, Sully Kai, but he's struggled with injuries so far this season. I think he was out for a little bit last season. They've also got Daniel Kemp on loan, who can also line up out wide. So as we mentioned, James Husband will be suspended, and it will likely fall to one of the following to take his place in the heart of the defence. They made 2 signings, so even more players to talk about. The 2 players that they signed on deadline day, even though it wasn't deadline day, but Sky Sports want to make you believe otherwise. So 4 options that they've got, I should say. They've got Michael Nottingham, 31-year-old, 6'4" centre-half. Spent most of his time in non-league before moving to Blackpool in 2018. Was out on loan at Crewe last year, and I think David Artell was keen to keep him, but Critchley kept hold of him. I think there was a little bit of Blackpool hedging their bets, really, not really sure what the situation was going to be with the COVID-19 pandemic, and keeping a player who was going to be a cheap option to keep on, but still provided depth. And obviously they lost Ben Hennigan, who was really impressive on loan for them last year. But he's really struggled so far this season and had a really bad game against Gillingham, which he got pulled. He got subbed off just after half-time after the second goal went in. So they've had to bring in a couple of players. They've also got another player on their books who's not quite in the first team picture yet, but could also feature on Saturday. So the 2 that they brought in, Daniel Ballard is a 21-year-old centre-half who's signed on loan from Arsenal, and he gets the obligatory next Tony Adams tag, just like Mark McGuinness. Seems to be what any white English centre-half gets who comes out of Arsenal's academy. But he's another one, like McGuinness, who's suffered injuries, but well regarded by Arsenal, just needs that real game experience. Daniel Gretterson, Icelandic international, he signed on deadline day as well. More of that experienced ball-playing centre-half, 25 years old, and maybe that's someone that they want to line up next to Epetia. And then you've also got Jordan Thornley. He's a 23-year-old Everton Academy graduate who they signed in January, and he's really hoping to become a regular starter, but he's got some stiff competition. So it could be any one of those 3 lining up, 4 players, any one of those 4 lining up against us on Saturday. But let's see how they're going to play. So we'll go to ITFC Analytics and see what he's got for us. So the general style of play that ITFC Analytics has identified from Blackpool is a possession-based 4-3-3 system. They like to play a high-tempo system, pressing high, with the aim of winning the ball back in dangerous areas for their dangerous, tricky attackers to create and score goals, which all sounds very familiar, doesn't it? I think Neil Critchley's certainly been taking a few notes from Mr. Klopp about his system, but yeah, they're a side who aim to work the ball out of the fence and progress the ball to the wide areas in order to create those overloads that you see in a 4-3-3, particularly in the likes of Pep Guardiola's system at Barcelona, really causing the defence trouble there. But the front 3 in particular like to remain forward and always offer that outlet on the counter and maintain the press high up the pitch when teams are perhaps trying to recycle the ball and move the ball about to create some avenues for attacks. The system instilled by Critchley also allows for plenty of fluidity, with the attackers cutting inside as well as holding the width. Fullbacks are always pressing forward to create those overloads, as we said, but the centre mids also will not only provide protection from the counter when both the fullbacks and the wide players are bombing on, but they also pick up dangerous pockets of space to help them create. And this is perhaps why they're using the likes of Grant Ward and Kessie Anderson, players who can play both out wide and centrally, who can do a bit of both of this, provide that protection as well as create as well. But Blackpool's biggest problem this season has been defensively, where a lot of defensive errors and general stability at the back has ultimately cost them in games. Really, generally, they are a good pressing side and have done that really effectively at times this season, and that's where they could really cause us issues. You look at how MK Dons won that midfield battle by getting really up in our face, winning those second balls, fighting for them 50-50s, and not allowing us really to work the ball out of midfield, particularly in the second half. And Blackpool are just as good at this. They've allowed the fewest passes following a defensive action from an opponent in the division, so they're always looking to win the ball quickly when they lose it and put the opposition under pressure in their own half. So if they're able to free the likes of Hamilton and Labala, who are really pacey, this could really cause Town a world of issues, with the likes of Stephen Ward missing from the starting lineup, as was confirmed by Paul Lambert. So yeah, if they can catch us on the counter, particularly in our own half, and feed these really dangerous attacking players, it's going to be a tough afternoon. But how can we beat this? Well, Town should look to exploit the weaker areas of Blackpool's defence, in particular the left-back position, with Garbutt and Mitchell not being particularly great at defending, great at going forward, but not always brilliant defensively. And the best way to counter a pressing team is to press them just as well. And it seems that Ipswich is still adjusting to the pace and the quality of League One football at this moment in time, and if we can get up and at him, he can lose the ball and we can turn the ball over and potentially counter ourselves. But the game will be won and lost in the wide areas, and we saw on Saturday that Kenlock really had a tough time. But the wide players that Blackpool have, whoever is going to line up there, like to stay forward. They don't track back and help their fullbacks, which means Town's fullbacks are going to have to really judge what they're going to do. There's going to be opportunities where we can also overload the wide areas like Blackpool like to do. But if we overcommit, that could really leave us open on the counter against some really pacey attackers, and that's always something we seem to struggle against. But if Town can remain calm and composed in possession, break the press, and ensure that counter press doesn't turn the ball over for Blackpool, we could easily see ourselves in a position to cause problems with a swift and decisive counter-attack, which again we don't always see from Town. But the right players in the right lineup may allow us to do this. As I've been saying, despite Blackpool's lowly position in the league, this is a really dangerous outfit, and they only need that one game to build confidence and click and gel as a unit, and we really don't want that to be against us. So yeah, that's a little bit more about Blackpool. I hope that's given you a good preview. Plenty of players to talk about, and they'll probably pull another rabbit out of the hat, a player that I haven't covered, just like Russell Martin. But yeah, it's going to be a tough afternoon, especially about Stephen Ward and Flynn Downs, as they were confirmed to be injured. But who knows, anything can happen with Ipswich Town. But I'm hopeful, if we can see the performances that we saw against the likes of Bristol Rovers and Rochdale, that we could see us return to winning form. But yeah, time will tell, and we'll find out on Saturday, won't we? Right, so that'll do us then, guys. Thank you very much for listening this week once again. Really appreciate your support and feedback on the mini match pod. Obviously, it's the secondary series that we've got in line with the usual Sunday show, which will always be out there every Sunday at 6 p.m. So make sure you leave your feedback on that. And you know, I'm always available to talk to on Twitter, so don't be afraid to message me on there, whether out in the public sphere or privately. I'm always happy to talk about Ipswich Town there. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your week, and we'll be back on Sunday, as I've said, with the review of this game against Blackpool, and hopefully we can return to winning ways. But until then, enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Thank you for watching or listening to this week's ITFC Unrestricted podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Deezer and TuneIn. If you haven't already, make sure you follow, download or subscribe so you never miss an episode wherever you are listening. A new episode will be live on all platforms at 6 p.m. every Sunday. For more immediate reaction to all the latest Town news, give me a follow on Twitter at rskid26. Go on, you know you want to. Until next week, I've been your host, Mark Beck. So take what you need, be on your way, and keep on following Town.